My name is Courtney, and I'm the Women's Ministry Director here at The Well, and it has been such a privilege for me to be on staff. I have just seen God move in so many different ways in the lives of women here at The Well. The Women at The Well Ministry, we always say that we are in the Word and we are by the Word. So we're a group of women that really want to dive deep into the truths of who God is and what Christ has done for us. And then out of that, we want to live like Jesus would live in our community and our friends around us and those who are hurting and vulnerable. And so we want to live like Christ. We want to live by the Word, what He calls us to, out of compassion and empathy. So it has been such an honor for me to be able to come alongside the women at our church. I mean, our women are powerhouses. They lead in so many different ways. It's been awesome to be a part of seeing Foster the Family really get going and now growing and growing. So many families are being taken care of. Children are being watched once a month as foster moms gather and be encouraged. The refugee ministry is led primarily by a lot of the women at our church. There's just so many opportunities that our women have really gotten behind to lead and spearhead, and it's been a privilege to watch that. And I would say another area where I have just seen God really work is just how the women have come alongside to care for one another. To encourage, to pray for, the amount of meals that are made when a baby is born or someone's going through a hard time. Just been really neat to see us watch just be a family together. And then I think a specific example that I can think of is we had our first women's retreat last fall, and it was amazing to gather. There were about 35 of us gathered together, and we had a new gal come. She was brand new to the church, and she was sitting at this table. And she just opened up and shared about how life had been hard and she was going through some struggles. And just one of the other gals at the table just said, "Can I pray for you?" And just came alongside and just prayed for her and walked with her. And I just think that's a picture of really what I just see happening over and over again through the women's ministry at our church. We don't have our own space, so we don't get to gather very often. But when we do, that kind of side-by-side ministry is what I really see happening. Paul talks about that in Philippians, where the believers would come together and walk side by side together. And that's what I really have just loved about what our women do best here at the church, is coming together, walking together, and then out of that also just being the hands and feet of Jesus and blessing the community. So as I think about how exciting it's going to be to have our own space, I just dream about all the things God could do in and through the women here at our church. The possibilities are endless. I mean, the way that we could really impact the community. There are so many hurting women out there that are just lonely and looking for community. The opportunities we have to impact more refugees and foster families, just really neat to think about all that we could do. We put on an event called Titus 2 Conversations last spring, and it was just an opportunity to gather for older women to share what they're learning to encourage younger women. But we didn't have our own space, so we had to try to find space. And so we found another church in our community that we could rent space from. But it was expensive, and it took a lot of prep to get that space available. But it was a huge success. So we tried to do it again just a few months ago, but we couldn't find space to rent to be able to do that. And so to think about us having our own building where we could do things like that, where we can encourage women to get in the Word and to continue to grow, biblical literacy, to know who Jesus is, to learn how to study the Bible, to do events, to do crafts and cooking and freezer meal parties. There's just so many opportunities and ways that we don't even know that God really could just continue to go forward with the gospel through the women here at our church. So I'm really excited about what God has in store for the women at the Well through the opportunity of having our own space. So I recently just got to lead a team of 22 youth and some adults to Costa Rica just this summer. And it was incredible to see these 16 teenagers just give their lives and work so hard. We built a house for a family who didn't have one, who was in a really tough spot. And it was incredible to see these teenagers live out the gospel. And then at the end, we put on this VBS for the whole community, and moms and dads and people were all there. And we got to explain the gospel. And so to actually live it out and then put words to it of this is what Jesus has done for us, that we didn't have to earn it. We couldn't deserve it. And so we want to give you a house because Jesus loves you. And then to talk about what that means, spiritually, these teens, it was incredible. And so I get excited thinking about all the teens here in Silver Spring, what an impact we could have, that these teenagers could come to experience a trip like this, to work hard, to get outside of themselves. I just think that's such a need right now. As I have 4 teenagers of my own, as I think about their friends, they all came back sharing about how excited they were, and all their friends want to come. So I'm excited about maybe another team going, and maybe we could build 2 or 3 houses, because we bring more and more teenagers, and they would get to live out the gospel and then also hear the gospel while they're there. So I am just so excited for what it's going to look like for us to have a permanent space, to have roots here, and the impact that we could have in our community and then the world beyond as well.